What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another conference championship preview prediction for all you fine people. Yeah, we're doing a third one tonight, and it is Conference USA. This is the final one that's going to be taking place this upcoming Friday, and we got a rematch of last week's game that ended in a 19-17 win for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. It's a rematch in the Conference USA championship game. Jacksonville State and Western Kentucky. Both of these teams, again, have had phenomenal seasons. They just met this past week. Is Jacksonville State going to be able to take revenge from last week and get on top of Conference USA? Or is Western Kentucky, the mainstay in this conference, going to show that they are the main power still to beat? We're going to find out what I think here in just a little bit, and we'll break down everything for you between the Hilltoppers and Gamecocks in just moments. But before we do that, you guys know I got to say thank you for all the love and support I continue to receive here on this channel. And if you'd like to continue to support the channel, or if you're new to the channel and you want to show your support in any way you can, well, you're already doing one way right now, simply just by watching the video, and I appreciate that so much. But you can also hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, and you should, especially if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am. We're predicting all 9 conference championship games here on my channel. But if you want to support me in other ways, you can like this video, you can comment, you can share. Any other way you interact with the channel all helps to support it. And go give me a follow on any social medias, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you like. It's at TailgateNate29, and I would really appreciate the follow over there. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and dive on into the Conference USA championship game. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, I am glad you asked. We are going to go through some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So we will first look at the Hilltopper offense against this Gamecock defense, and then we'll flip it. We'll take a look at Jacksonville State's offense against Western Kentucky's defense. At the end of the video, I'll give you some final keys to the game, sort of break this one down a little bit, give you how I think this one's going to play out, as well as at the end, a final score prediction for who comes away the champion of Conference USA. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Gamecocks and the Hilltoppers. This should be a good one, as it was this past week. Now, before we dive on into everything you see on screen right now, let's go ahead and let's break down this thing from Bowling Green, Kentucky this past weekend. So it was a very fun, fascinating, interesting game to watch. I actually did sit down and watch this game. This was definitely not both of these teams' best performance this past week. Now, let me introduce you to both of these teams as we go along, right? Let's start with what's on your screen right now. The Western Kentucky offense, well, it's not super explosive. It only averages around 27 points per game, only around 390 yards per game. But I'll tell you one thing, Western Kentucky loves to throw the football. They love to throw the football with Caden Veltkamp as their quarterback. The guy has been slinging it for Western Kentucky so far this season. On the year, 2,665 passing yards, 22 touchdowns on the year, on around 67% completion. All pretty good numbers. It gets overshadowed a little bit when you consider he has thrown 10 picks this year, which is a pretty dang high number, but he's got a lot of really good wide receivers to throw to. Most notably is the senior in Keyshawn Johnson. He's got 830 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. Easton Messer has also been a really good weapon for him, and the only other guy that does have over 40 catches this year is the running back in Elijah Young, who leads this team with 738 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Caden Veltkamp, though, we know he can get outside of the pocket and run 203 yards on 105 tries. So yeah, that's not really going to coordinate one-to-one with a good rushing average. He isn't even averaging 2 yards per carry, but does have 7 rushing scores on the year, and that is half of the rushing touchdowns that Western Kentucky has been able to get into the end zone this season. Western Kentucky loves the pass, and this is a Jacksonville State defense. You take a look at that pass number there, 221 yards per game allowed through the air from Jacksonville State. And last week against, again, this same Western Kentucky team, 301 yards and a touchdown was allowed to Caden Veltkamp. They weren't really able to defend Elijah Young that well either. Elijah Young did have 4.8 yards per carry, but other than that, the run defense for Jacksonville State showed up. It limited the Hilltoppers to only 105 yards. You take Elijah Young out of that equation, Western Kentucky basically got nothing on the ground. But Messer and Young and Johnson were able to have themselves some pretty good days. Noah Myers ended up having himself a pretty solid contest there, as well as Western Kentucky was really able to move the football there through the air. And you take a look at what else Western Kentucky was able to do. Well, they dominated time of possession in that game just this past week. They were 7 of 20 on third down. Yes, 20 third downs. They were 7 of 20 there. They turned the football over once. It was a fumble. They were penalized quite a bit, but Western Kentucky, I think, failed to capitalize on a lot of opportunities last week. To say that they were settling for field goals is an understatement. Their kicker, whose name is escaping me, I'll figure it out here in just a little bit, hit 2 from 50 yards, I think a 30-yarder, and then a 21-yard chip shot towards the end of the game there to win it with just about 2 seconds left. And I will get you that kicker's name here right now. The kicker's name is Lucas Carniero, and hopefully I'm saying that last name right. But this is a Jacksonville State team that's going to have to adjust to what they saw last week, right? The defensive backs are going to have to be more aggressive, maybe play a little bit more press, maybe change up your schematics and your schemes a little bit. They're going to have to change the game plan from last week, because 301 yards, if you allow that to Western Kentucky and you give them some of the similar looks that you gave them last week, well, Western Kentucky is a good enough offense. Caden Veltkamp is a good enough quarterback to take advantage of that and to make you pay even more than he was able to do and go for 300 yards last week. Now, the Hilltoppers picked up very, very timely third downs this past week. Let's just go back and take a look at some of those later series, especially on the field goal there. They converted in the same drive a 3rd and 5. There was another 3rd and 5 where the pass was incomplete there as well. But in a lot of other scoring drives, there was a 3rd and 4 conversion there for Western Kentucky. And it seemed like, okay, Jacksonville State, this would be a really big opportunity here to get off the field on a 3rd down. Western Kentucky was able to convert. And even in the later stages of the game, they were able to avoid 3rd down entirely. So that's going to be a big key in this one as well. But for Jacksonville State, you look at how many turnovers they forced. They forced 20 turnovers this year. This is the Western Kentucky offense that did turn the football over once in this game last week. Jacksonville State has got to take advantage of what can be a turnover-happy offense at times. And especially when Veltkamp makes mistakes, that absolutely costs Western Kentucky big time. This is a Western Kentucky team that is going to live through the pass, and Jacksonville State's going to have to be able to stop that. The defense, I think, as a whole, is going to have to step up. I think they have to create more pressure. I think they have to create more negative plays, because you take a look in that regards at what Jacksonville State was able to do last week. I mean, 1 sack, 6 tackles for loss they were getting in that backfield, but I think you need a little bit more than 1 sack to be able to slow down what Western Kentucky wants to do through the air. Well, Western Kentucky isn't going to try to slow down the aerial attack for Jacksonville State, because this is a run-first offense. So 2 very different styles of offense. They only threw the ball 17 times last week, and their primary starter this year, Tyler Huff, who has been outstanding all season long, and more on him later, went 3 of 11 in that pass game against Western Kentucky before being pulled with an ankle injury. So Logan Smothers, a former Nebraska Cornhusker, was able to take over. Now, Smothers has played a lot of college football. I believe this is his 4th or 5th season. He's a very experienced option. He is nowhere near as dynamic as Tyler Huff. Here's Tyler Huff's stats on the air. The passing stats, not necessarily going to blow you away. 2,003 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 6 picks. All right, yay, whoop-de-doo. Those are not necessarily the greatest stats, but what he's been able to do on the ground this year, he has the 2nd most rushing yards out of any quarterback in the country. He's only behind that of Bryson Daly at Army, and you know Army loves to run the triple option. 192 carries for 1,176 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns. Now, Tyler Huff is going to be a game-time decision. If he is healthy and ready to go, I think that is a huge advantage for Jacksonville State. They did not have him for the majority, or I should say, especially that latter part, the crucial part of the game against Western Kentucky. And albeit Logan Smothers was able to lead a pretty solid scoring drive, and Trey Stewart was able to pick up some of the slack in that backfield as well. The primary running back had 20 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown in that pass game, and Logan Smothers did have a rushing touchdown as well. So it isn't all hope lost if Tyler Huff is not rearing and ready to go here, but if he is ready to go, maybe even if he isn't 100%, that's going to affect the game big time for Jacksonville State. They need him to play. Is he going to be at 100%? Likely not, but this is too important of a game for him to miss. Depending on how severe the injury is at game time, you could see Tyler Huff's ability, especially to run the football, a little bit limited there with that bad ankle, because you see this is the team that averages over 250 rush yards per game. They only average around 177 passing yards per game. Well, the game plan is going to change a little bit if Logan Smothers is going to be that starting quarterback, but the running back room is also going to have to step it up there as well. You take a look at some of the running backs that Jacksonville State has had this year. Again, I already mentioned the name of Stewart. He's been absolutely phenomenal this year. I talked about Huff. He's got over 1,000 yards, but Stewart, 1,400 yards this year, man. 1,403 to be exact on 237 carries and 20 rushing touchdowns for the primary running back in Trey Stewart. Him coupled with Huff are going to be dynamic. Again, if Huff cannot go, then it's going to be Stewart, and Logan Mothers is probably going to have to pick up a little bit of that slack. He averages 7.9 yards per carry on his 21 carries he's got this year. Okay, Logan, let's see what you can do if it is you that gets the ball. Again, much bigger advantage if Tyler Huff is under center for Jacksonville State. Third down defense and clock control was huge for Western Kentucky in the game against Jacksonville State this past weekend. Western Kentucky outpossessed Jacksonville State for almost 13 minutes, and they only allowed the Gamecocks to go 2 for 13 on third down, which allowed Jacksonville State to not score as many points as they usually do. Now, there was a drive towards the later stages of the game in the fourth quarter where there was a third down conversion, and the very next play, Logan Smothers had that 17-yard touchdown run. It was a quick 5-play, 75-yard drive, a big play there to open that drive, the third down conversion. So Jacksonville State got it when it mattered, but over the course of that game, yeah, they were not a great third down offense at all. And these are two teams that are so third down offenses, but not very good third down defenses. Western Kentucky was able to win that battle. Well, they're going to have to win it again here in this game. Their rush defense is abhorrent. It is atrocious overall on the season. Now, last week, they allowed Jacksonville State for 229 rushing yards and 5.3 yards per carry. Yeah, that number is definitely going to have to come down. So Western Kentucky's rush defense been a big point of emphasis for them this season. It has not been very good. They have been able to get some pressure to the quarterbacks and some pressure in that backfield. Last week, though, 1 sack, 5 tackles for loss. You got to force some more tackles for loss. And 5, still a pretty solid number, but that rush defense has got to get better. And much same for Jacksonville State. That pass defense has got to get better as well. It's just dependent on which one breaks first. Expect a whole lot more points than what happened this past week. Again, I don't think these two offenses were clicking at their best. And when these two offenses are at their best, I think there's going to be a lot more points scored than what was scored in the previous matchup. Now, both of these two offenses have different strengths. Obviously, Western Kentucky is throwing the football. Jacksonville State is running the football. It is going to be a huge key whether or not Tyler Huff plays in this game. Even if he isn't 100% healthy, the threat of Tyler Huff even being that quarterback is going to weigh on Western Kentucky's defense. I think Logan Smothers can win them this game, but I'm going to go with a healthy Tyler Huff and a Jacksonville State defense that I trust just a little bit more to be able to create pressure in that backfield, and I got them winning an absolute thriller here. 33-29 is the way I see this one playing out. You see all the lines and odds there. They are as of recording this video. You see the time to watch. This was an absolutely thrilling matchup this past week. There's no reason why we aren't going to have another one in Jacksonville, Alabama this upcoming weekend. But with Tyler Huff healthy, with the way he's able to impact the game, Trey Stewart running the ball, and the way Western Kentucky's rush defense and just how poor it's been this year, you could say the same thing about Jacksonville State's pass defense as well. But Jacksonville State, I think, is going to prove to be a little bit more physical, and that is what will help them win this game. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys tomorrow with some more conference championship predictions. Goodbye.